Oh my gosh, my gallery is filling up with so many beautiful faces. I love this community so much. Welcome, welcome to our back to school social work event. I am admitting everyone that's in the waiting room right now. So the goal of our gathering today, again, is to share insights. I have a wonderful panel. We know as social workers, we are hailing from all different parts of the country in this meeting, which is very beautiful, but every district runs its school social work very differently. That's the little disclaimer that we all have different capacities and roles. So always check in with your district first, or your supervisor, whoever that may be. And as well as introducing your names and where you're from and what your role is, we'd also like to know how you're feeling about this new year starting off. I'm going to move into another kind of weird question that we get. Do we do counseling? Are we the same as a counselor? What is that all about? And so our next panelist is Jessica, that actually does do mental health counseling. Go ahead, Jessica.
I'm pumped for the school year. I am. Thank you for everyone. Great stuff. I am going into my second year. My name is Jessica. I'm an MSW. And like Lauren mentioned, I am a mental health counselor. So I only do counseling. So my role differs very much from the school social worker at my high school, who only works with students who have IEPs. So I work with the students who are general ed only. And I do brief counseling in my work in the district or in the high school. And so how I explain that to students and to parents is that my go-to is saying I assess, I assist, and then I refer. And so what that looks like, it's my role helping the student regulate so that they're able to continue the school day. I assess what the student needs. So are they struggling with a relationship? Is it boundaries? Is it perfectionism? Is it school stress, home stress? And the assessment phase is over a few sessions. So it's not like in just one sitting. It's over a few sessions. And then I assist. And that's really the counseling piece. And that can look like teaching them about mindfulness, self-awareness, educating them on other coping skills and about their brain. I love talking to them about their brain and how it works. And then I almost always recommend students to connect with counseling services outside of school because my work is brief. Counseling outside of school can be more consistent, and it's much more easier for them to build on sessions and actually have, an established treatment plan with their therapist or counselor outside of school. I refer a lot of the times, and it's a lot quicker if I assess that they need something more than what I can offer them. So if there's any disclosure of sexual abuse, physical abuse, if a student is in crisis, if it's apparent that they have symptoms of depression or any other disorders, that's when I definitely refer. And I always tell the parents that our services, they're voluntary. So I can definitely send out a pass for a student and they can choose to come down and not to come down, and that's okay. That's what makes our program within the school unique. That's what makes it a safe space for them to have that option. And once students are connected to services outside of school, counseling or therapy, I then take a step back and just do monthly check-ins with the students. Why? Because we don't want to overwhelm them with too much counseling or therapy, because that is a thing, right? So, and we don't want to contradict whatever it is that they may be learning in their, counseling or with their main therapist. And aside from my brief counseling, I do connect family with resources in the community, to support groups and other human service agencies. So that is the scope of what I do, and that's how I explain to students and to parents of what my role is within the high school. And anyone is always welcome to connect with me. I love learning from other social workers that are in schools. Connect with me on Instagram, the Social Working Corner.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that and giving some clarification into how mental health goes inside of a school, because it's very different. I'm going to transition now to what if a student doesn't even want the counseling? Like they don't want to talk to you at all, which I know it doesn't happen to the best of us. No, I'm just kidding. It happens quite often. You see that refusal. So our next panelist, and we have 2 more to go will be Ariana and then Erica. But first, Ariana, we're talking about working with students that might not want to work with you.
So I've been a school social worker for 14 years. So I've been doing this for a little while, but I do work mainly with students who receive a tier 3 level of supports, which I provide individual counseling. I also do case management and provide parent support and teacher support in the classroom. So my role is a little different, but I do get a lot of referrals of kids who don't want counseling. They're like, why am I here? Why do I need to talk to you? I don't need it. You're wasting my time. Can I go back to class? Those are the typical comments that I get. So I really had to okay, be patient, take a deep breath. Okay, so what do I need to do? So I've consulted with plenty of social workers, and I've had to figure out a way to see what really works to get them to be open to counseling. They're not always going to be really open to it, but it takes a little bit of time, and eventually, they're like, okay, fine, I give in. But so a tip that I recommend is when you're working with the kid from the very beginning, empathize with the student, because the choice they didn't give, they weren't given the opportunity to choose. The choice was made for them, whether that was the parent who said, I want my kid to receive counseling services, or the teacher made that recommendation, or the support team made that referral, right? And the parent consented. The choice wasn't, they didn't make that choice. So they're coming in and, with a level of resistance. So allow them for the opportunity to express, well, if you had the choice, what would you have chosen, right? Give them the opportunity to be heard, to be seen, and kind of just explore that. Well, what was it like? Did you have a bad experience, or did you have a really bad connection with someone? What was it, right? And just give them the opportunity to express, and then acknowledge those feelings, acknowledge what you see, what you sense, what you hear. And it really does help kind of just, lighten things a little bit in the counseling session. And again, giving them the opportunity to be heard. The next tip would be try to imagine counseling differently. So help them to imagine it differently. So I always tell them, picture me not as your school social worker, not as your therapist or counselor, but picture me as your coach. If you were in a football team, your coach is going to teach you different plays, right? So kind of picture me as your coach, me teaching you skills to improve your game, me pumping you up, me motivating you, cheering you on, right? Supporting you. So try to give it a different analogy, right? And just see if that helps. Because when I reframe it, they're like, okay, maybe, so they're a little bit more open to the idea. So I always reframe counseling. Another tip would be remember to check yourself. So before calling in the student, you got to check yourself. You got to make sure you're in a good headspace, because I get it. We're, crisis all day, or just other things going on, and your mind is just and you have to meet with the student, right? So make sure you check with yourself, give an opportunity to be mindful about what you're feeling in the moment. And then take some deep breaths, right? And be ready, because it's not about you in that moment. It's about the student. So like Bianca mentioned, they can tell, right? Whether if you're being real, whether if you're being fake, or whether oh no, this person is not in a good mood, right? So you want the first experience, the first encounter to be good. So make sure to check yourself, and then your body language is huge. You got to make sure that you are, just relaxed, calm. And I always make sure I have this welcoming vibe, right? So when they come in, I'm like, hey, yeah, do I exaggerate a little bit? Maybe, but I try to speak the student's language, right? Because I work with middle schoolers, so I have to be cool as much as I can, right? But I really just have that inviting attitude, and I try to make sure that my space is also inviting, right? Because when they come in, I want them to know, like, I'm a safe person. This is a safe place. I want you to feel safe, right? So that tends to help. Another tip would be give them a sense of control, because remember, they didn't make that choice. The choice was made for them. So when you give them a sense of control in session, like I'm very child-centered, I let the student lead. So when they come in, whatever's on their mind, whatever they want to talk about, that's what I focus on in the moment. Whatever they see in my room, like, what is this? What is that? Like, whatever they're playing with, I focus on that in that moment. I give them my time and my attention on whatever it is that they're focusing on, because whatever's going on, that's what they want to talk about in that moment. So I don't worry about like, oh, my treatment plan, or, oh, but this is the goal I need to focus on. No. Just be patient. Just wait. Remember, you got to build that relationship. You got to be that safe person. You have to have that safe space. So just let them lead, focus on whatever it is that they want to talk about, and eventually you'll get to what you need to get to. So, and another tip, number 5, would be wherever you meet with the student, whether if that's on the table, whether if that's on the ground, I always tend to have things in their reach. When I mean things, I mean like kinetic sand. I have, playing cards, not in the box, like the playing cards are loose. I have Play-Doh. I have regular therapeutic sand. I have an 8-ball. I have a Simon. I have a tech deck, whatever it is in their reach. Because when they see something, they're more likely to like gravitate and grab something. And that tends to help kind of just distract them a little bit, in the sense of like, they're just kind of focusing on whatever they're touching, and use those props or those things that you have on your desk as to break the ice, to be able to like start a conversation. Oh my gosh, have you ever played cards before? Let me show you my weak shuffling, because I'm not very good, but I know how to play, war. I know how to play slapjack. You want to see? You want to try? So I use it as an opportunity to kind of just break the ice and focus on something different, right? And once, they start gravitating to something more regularly, that's what I usually have out for them to try. And when they notice something's missing, they'll tell you, and they'll tell you what they want. Like, oh, no, bring out the kinetic sand. I want to play with that today. And I'm like, okay, so I have like opportunities for them to just kind of feel a little bit relaxed, because when they have those things visible, it really does bring the tension down, and they do feel like, they'll start talking. They won't notice it. They'll actually start talking, and it's kind of amazing. But you have to just really trust yourself, trust the process. We don't have a magic wand to get, kids to talk or to participate all the time. But, like Bianca was saying, like, we have to build that relationship, right? And it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. So trust yourself, and remember, meet them where they are. Okay. Sometimes we have like this little agenda. No, meet them where they are, wherever it is, whatever they want to focus on, that's what we're going to focus on. And it really does make a difference in session, because they'll know you're genuine, and that you're there, and that you really truly do want to support them.
I feel energized and ready to go. And I know that's how we feel right now. Of course, right with the beginning of the year, hopefully these tips have kind of set you up, but burnout is something that is very real. I'm going to transition now to our last panelist, because she's going to give us some tips and insight on how to avoid burnout throughout the school year, because it really is really crucial to be able to do that. And that is Miss Erica.
We're often told avoid burnout when you're in social work, you're going through your program, you're starting your first role. You hear it from your supervisors, from your colleagues, like, make sure you avoid burnout. Don't get burnt out. Like, everybody gets burnt out. But at the same time, like, not everybody's talking about tools of like how to avoid it. They're just telling you to avoid it. And so one of the things that I want to focus on today is more of like that self-awareness, that self-assessment piece that goes along with burnout. Some of the warning signs that we can definitely see can be three different areas. We have our physical warning signs, and that could be exhaustion, insomnia, hypersomnia, headaches, migraines, and even somatization of some of our symptoms. We have those tummy aches, we have those like weird nerves through our body and system. So those are some of the physical. Then we have some behavioral warning signs, and this could be anywhere from increasing our substance use, other potential addictions, like maybe workaholic kind of feelings, like you're overworking and you're diving in all the way 200%, or shopaholic, like you're, retail therapy is nice and we all, I think, participate in it here and there. But other behavioral kind of warning signs include absenteeism. When there is, you start calling out more frequently. And I'm a huge advocate for using your PTO, but we also have to pay attention to how we're calling out or how we're using our PTO. So if there's a lot of calling out, there might be something else going on at the same time. Last year specifically, I think I had more absenteeism than I did planned PTO. And that was a sign for me, like that last year was rough. I think those of us who were here last year can agree last year was rough. And so that's definitely one of those behavioral warning signs telling us that we are kind of like experiencing symptoms of burnout. Another behavioral one is an exaggerated sense of responsibility, feeling like we have to do it all. Like if I don't do it, it won't get done right. That sense of responsibility can weigh heavy on us. Avoiding work or tasks altogether, forgetfulness, and having hard times making decisions. So those are some of the behavioral ones. And then we have some of the psychological ones too. The warning signs can look like emotional exhaustion, distancing, having a negative self-image, reduced feelings of empathy or sympathy, cynicism or embitterment, having some resentment towards others, dread of certain days. Sometimes when we might have a challenging student, we might start dreading that day coming towards us. It might be like, oh, tomorrow's Thursday, and these are the students I see on Thursday, and I know it's going to be rough. And we start having that feeling of like, I'd rather just avoid it. That's a warning sign. Professional helplessness, feeling like, I don't know what to do. I'm out of options. And not nurturing non-work related activities. During icebreakers this week, there was definitely what's a hobby or what's something that you like to do outside of work. And that's hard to find a hobby, or like hard to remember, wait, what is a hobby? Like, oh, I do need one of those. Let me find that. Let me recover my doodling, my drawing, my creative aspects. So just kind of like knowing that if there's like a disappearance of our hobbies, it could be a psychological warning sign that we are getting closer to burnout. And very similar to how we provide SEL content in terms of zones of regulation, we have like our green zone, our yellow zone, our red zone. So very similar with our warning signs. We have our green zone when we're good to go, we're feeling refreshed, we're feeling ready. We can slowly move into the yellow zone where there might be some warning signs of some of those earlier symptoms I mentioned, the psychological, emotional, and behavioral. And so we might start seeing those present, but might dismiss them as something different, or might even be ignored. It might be like, well, I just maybe didn't hydrate very well, and that's why there was a headache today. And so being aware of like when we start shifting into different zones, we can get into the red zone, which is our little danger zone. We want to start definitely paying more attention to those when they start compiling together. And lastly, like the burnout stage, we're on stress leave. We're experiencing clinical levels of depression or anxiety that are really impacting our daily functioning. We have to look at the things that bring us joy. I definitely schedule in my lunch, a mindful lunch every day, and it's there in the calendar. Will it happen every day at the same time? Maybe not. But it's there, and it's a reminder of like, you need to take this time for you. There's also my end time. We have a hard start time, and it feels like we have a soft end time. Like we're done at 4:15-ish. and then it could go down. So we definitely want to, maybe even set that end time on our calendar.
Thank you so much. I do like how you put that. We do have that soft end, and that's a good way to think of it. And even setting alerts like that, really tangible things to take away. Thank you so much. That's the insight, right, from all of these panelists. I follow all of them on social media. You really should too, and now you know why. So please do so we can support you throughout the year. We have Patricia, our assistant, kind of looking through the chat right now for questions, but if you have one, you can type it in or unmute yourself. Patricia, have we seen any questions coming in?
Hey, before we start, everybody smile. I'm going to take a picture and I'll send it in our Instagram.
Yay! Yes, thank you.
Smile. There you go. I'll send it in the group.
Oh, I have a question from Alicia. What are some of the things you do to organize yourself at the beginning of the school year?